Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another installment of the Deke Quarterly. Today, we're interviewing Kurt Kufeld. Kurt, thank you so much for coming to Chicago for this interview.
My pleasure.
Kurt flew in from Seattle, Washington last night, and we're looking forward to learning more about your career, your history, and of course, your involvement in Deke. So Kurt is Vice President of Governance, Operations, and Security Services at Amazon Web Services, also known as AWS. AWS powers a significant portion of the internet, and many of the major companies and applications that viewers like you rely on daily are ran by Amazon Web Services, along with tons of other use cases. So Kurt, thank you again for joining us, and we're looking forward to getting into it.
My pleasure. I'm happy to be here. And I didn't fly in yesterday. I kind of flew in the middle of the night this morning. But aside from that, it was all good.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a flight delay there.
We did have a little bit of flight delay. They don't quite run on the same schedule we do.
Yeah, but glad you made it eventually.
I did.
A really early morning / late night. So,
correct.
Yeah. So let's start with roots. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Certainly. People always wonder, they ask me whether I'm born in the U.S. or previous to this in Canada. No. So I was actually born in Latin America, specifically Asuncion, Paraguay. My parents were born and raised in Paraguay. They lived on a farm, no running water, no power, outdoor plumbing.
Wow.
Yeah. And we moved to Canada when I was 6. And so I moved from a country where I'm going to do temperatures in Celsius, where it's 40 degrees during the summer to, I think it was 40 degrees the day we left. And I think it was just barely above 0, which is freezing in Celsius, when we landed. And then I lived for the next 25-ish years in Edmonton, various parts of Edmonton, and grew up there. I, very middle class, very blue collar family. My dad is a mechanic. My mom worked in a photo lab. Remember back when you actually took pictures with film? And I went to the University of Alberta. I started there in 1982. I initiated into Deke in 1984. So not my first year, my second year. And initiated with a good friend of mine, Garrett Lang, who's a Deke as well. And we're friends to this day. Daryl Hominuk, who's somebody I went to high school with, initiated the first year and kind of brought the two of us in. And since that time, I lived in Edmonton, after college through about 1995. And then I spent a lot of time between Houston and Columbia, back to Edmonton for a bit, then Mexico City. I left my prior employer, and I went to, eventually I went to Amazon early 2000, and have been there ever since. So I've been there just over 25 years. And, I was hired as what Amazon calls a technical project manager. And, I initially helped launch a call center in The Hague, helped launch the French website, helped launch the Japanese website for Amazon Retail, not Amazon Web Services. Amongst other things, I helped Amazon move from the original engine that powered the website, which is a large monolithic piece of software, to a distributed services architecture. That was in 2006. After that, I owned a bunch of things, but eventually I owned ordering. So, shopping cart, checkout, that type of stuff. And because it was the bottleneck for the company at the time. That was in 2008 through 2012. And then I was asked, I'd keep getting tapped on the shoulder to help out with things. I'm the guy they call when nobody else will take the job.
It's a good position to be in.
It is. And by the way, it's fun. It's fun. Like, I've really enjoyed my time. They asked me to help out with a product called Silk. Silk is the browser on the Kindle Fire tablets. And so I did that for 2 years. And then they asked me to help out with AWS platform. So I owned, I call it the glue that holds AWS together. So things like identity, cryptography, the console platform, billing, things like that, like the stuff think of it like plumbing in the house. You don't pay attention to it until it goes wrong. Mm-hmm. And then over the last 2 years, I've become the president of governance, operations, and security services. So moved a few things out, moved a few other things in, moved in observability. So when you do something with software, you want to log information about that. That's observability. As part of that, I also own OpenSearch, which is it's open source software that we actually just moved into a foundation as part of the Linux Foundation, and it's used to do analysis on this type of data. And I also own security services. So we have this concept of a shared responsibility model where we will keep, the underlying platform safe, and you, the customer, need to worry about your applications around top of the platform. But security services helps you, the customer, keep your applications safe on top of the platform. So I own that now as well, and we're kind of we brought that all together because we're refactoring that and really thinking about how do we provide an overall security solution to our customers. I love that work. I get to meet with customers from all over the world. I am the executive sponsor for a number of customers. I can't tell you which, but companies whose names you would recognize. And some of them are in the UK, some of them are in Germany and kind of the mainland of Europe, some in Australia, Japan, Singapore, the Middle East. So it's kind of fun. I never thought I'd be doing this, to be very honest, in my life. I always did want to do international business. But like I say to the folks at work, and I'm just an overpromoted engineer. And I have a degree in computer engineering. I've written a lot of software in my life. Unfortunately, I don't get to do any software writing these days. My team probably says that's a good thing. What I do a lot these days is my job is to hire great people, to empower them to get their jobs done, and to help kind of set the direction. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's
sorry for the long talk.
No, that's incredible. And you've got quite the resume, and we're looking forward to kind of digging deeper into that and learning more about some of those things that you mentioned.
Sure.
Kurt, you used the term owned a couple of times. That's Amazon speak for having ultimate responsibility for?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me actually explain that, because I think you and I were talking earlier, and you said,
Yep.
What, you sold it to the company? And no, we have a set of leadership principles at Amazon, and we call them the Amazon leadership principles. Surprise, surprise. They are public. So if you want to use your favorite search engine, search for Amazon leadership principles, you will find them. They start with customer obsession, ownership, bias for action, think big, learn to be curious, stuff like that. But from the ownership perspective, the way that we think about Amazon, the way that we think about how we run a business is, one of the ways to run a business is very top down, right? Big guys make all the decisions, and all the minions run around and go crazy. That tends not to be the way that we work. What we try to do is we try to hire great people, and then move the decision making as far out into the leaf nodes as possible, so that the individual teams own their destiny. So when I say own, it's because I am effectively, for the area that I own, I'm the CEO of my company. I own it. I'm responsible for the people, the software, the P&L, the profit and loss, and I am on the hook. Now, I have a fairly large organization. My individual leaders own their areas, but they also say I own. They don't say I run, because that's not the way we think about it. So ownership matters a lot. I'm going to have to talk about Amazon for a second. The leadership principles is interesting too, because most companies have leadership principles or core values, and they are, embossed in gold on vellum behind glass on some executive floor that's got like dark paneling and marble on the floor. Okay, we don't have executive floors. Our leadership principles are not encased in glass somewhere. They are lived and breathed every day. They're how we're measured on an annual basis, and they really do drive the behavior. So there we go.
Oh, yeah, that's fascinating. And the leadership principles, I'll definitely be doing some more research after this to see about those. So when you mentioned that you have a top-down strategy and that...
We don't have a top-down strategy.
Not a top-down strategy. Yeah. And the strategy where people that are under you have leadership of their divisions and you want to give them autonomy on things that they run. Mm-hmm. How do you find those leaders, and what are things that you look for when you're hiring and also firing? And how do you make sure that team is operating at its full potential and meeting expectations and moving your company in the right direction?
Well, what you're looking for is owners, right? And I'll actually give you an example. Two of the folks that work, I would say work for me today, although it's more like, we're peers that work together, although they report to me. Two of them are actually ex-CEOs of companies. And they basically run their business. And that's a fantastic thing to have. Now, our interview process and the way that we look at it, and this is what I would do even if I wasn't at Amazon, I learned this there, but I would do it elsewhere, is we interview for the leadership principles. We interview for the core values that make you successful. And so when we interview, we use something called behavioral-based interviewing. So you never ask, hey, in this situation, what would you do? You say, give me an example of a time where things did not go well. What happened? What did you learn? What would you do differently today? You're looking for actual examples of what those people have done. And you're looking for people who really kind of speak to that with honesty and authority. And you can almost always tell. The other thing that we do is we have more than one person interview, obviously. And then we kind of get together and make a decision around whether we would hire this person. We also have this concept called a bar raiser. In 1999, went from 2,000 people to 8,000 people in a year. Made a few hiring mistakes. Our first and only CIO, a gentleman by the name of Rick Delzell, we're friends to this day. He brought in this concept of a bar raiser, and the bar raiser is someone that's on the interview loop that is not part of the team that you're on, and they must be inclined in order to make the hire. That means that they have no skin in the game, and I'm certain that you've heard of people. It's like, I just need a warm body. Like the bar raiser is explicitly designed so that that doesn't happen, and just having them there changes the conversation. As well, all of our decisions, it's hard with people, but turns out you can really try and do this, is you base the decision on data. It's not, I like this person, I don't like this person. It's like they exhibited these traits, and you have leadership principles and other traits that you are interviewing for, and you need to say, did they meet or exceed or not hit those traits? And you need to provide data and examples around that. The way that I think about it as well is in many companies, when you go in, when they're looking to hire somebody, they're looking for a reason to not hire them. They make the assumption the person's going to get hired, but they're really looking for a reason not to hire them. That's not the way we work. The way that I look at it and the way that we look at it is every time the person comes in or any person that we interview, we start off not inclined. And we start off not inclined, not because we dislike them, but we have no data. And so our job is to extract that data until we get to the hiring decision. And we do that, I think we're fairly effective at it, but you do make mistakes. And so the other thing that we do is we look at our staff every year, and we look at, I'll call it the bottom 5%. And turns out you need to do something about those and move them up or move them out is the way that I look at it. Now, it's not done in a cruel way or anything else like that, but what I have found is with most people who are underperforming, either they don't know. I had an example of he was very early in his career, and he just didn't understand. And so that first year he did not do well, and he wrote his own performance, but he's like, okay, I'm going to fix this. He wrote his own performance improvement plan. He went to his boss and said, here's my PIP. And honestly, he was top tier the next year. It's rare, but it does happen. Like others, you try and make them better. And some, it just doesn't work out. And that's okay too. They're probably great people, but they'd probably also be happier somewhere else. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that does.
Excellent.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's one of the things where it's better to find out sooner rather than later. And once you find out, you make a decision right then instead of letting it linger on longer and longer.
Yeah. The thing about letting an issue linger, whether it's, I got to be careful what I say here. There is no good news or bad news. There's just news. And you want to surface news quickly. And if the news says, oh boy, we're in trouble, surface it quickly, because bad news is like fish in the sun. It does not get better with age. And a performance problem is the same. It does not get better by letting it sit there. In fact, it may cause challenges with other people within that group or within the space. The more senior, the more damage they can do. The flip side is also true. Like your top people, they're pretty awesome. The top 20% of staff probably does 80% of the work. And, you see this in most businesses, in most environments. So we really think about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So kind of going back to before Amazon, back when you were in college, what was that experience like? How did you choose to join a fraternity, and what drew you to Delta Kappa Epsilon?
It's a great question. So I don't know if all schools in Canada are like this, but I think most of them are. So a couple of things. One, at the University of Alberta, a lot of the students actually lived at home. So I lived at home. I didn't live in the chapter house. We did have a few people that lived there. And, and I'll be very honest, like initially, I didn't even think about a fraternity. I was in engineering, and it's pretty hard. And then, a fraternity brother of mine, Daryl Hamanuk, who I'd known for many years, came and basically said to me and my friend Garrett, hey, you should come and check this out. And we did. We went and checked it out. We liked the people, and just generally good people. And, I'm friends with most of my, fraternity brothers that are still around for the last 40 years. And I still go back to Edmonton every once in a while. Well, I go back to Edmonton quite a bit, but I go back to the chapter every once in a while. And I was there last summer, and a bunch of the boys from kind of my years all went out for dinner, and it was just nice hanging out. Some of them I see relatively regularly, like once or twice a year, or maybe every couple of years. And some of them I hadn't seen in a long time. But there's still a connection, and that connection matters. And, it's like anywhere. It's the people that make the place great.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And that's something that we see throughout our alumni and undergraduates. It's the people that make their experience. Yeah. And the other stuff is great, but at its core, it's really the people.
It is. Whether it's a fraternity, whether it's a company, I'll use the company as the example. The most valuable asset you have goes home every day.
Yeah, you as a person.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Are there any particular stories or memories that stick out from you that you can share with us about your college days?
Yeah, I mean, some of them I can't share, but I just remember there was really is a brotherhood, and we supported each other. We give each other a really rough time, to be clear, but it was all in good fun. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And we would support each other. Every once in a while, like somebody wasn't quite on the right track, and we'd help pull them back, right? And those are the things I remember. I remember, during certain events going to class with some of my brothers, and it wasn't the best day, but we were all in it together. And I remember us cleaning the house, and one summer I helped redo the floors in the house. But it's before we owned our own. There are a lot of kind of good memories from that time. Also, just meeting some of the alumni, and you'd meet people, you'd be like, wow, they're interesting, and so really enjoyed that. And frankly, it's great to this day. And then when you go somewhere else, like living in Seattle now, KE's there, and I can't remember, somebody reached out to me. I'd been there probably a year or two, and it's like, hey, we're having this thing. I don't even know how they got my contact data. And I went out, and I've kind of been in touch with them on and off ever since. And then when the chapter reactivated, I helped with that a very little bit. But it's kind of great. And even though I didn't go to school with them and we're kind of different ages, there's still this common bond. And that's really nice. Even the the boys that are going through today, they're a lot younger than I am, but there's a common bond there, and that's really kind of great. And I've seen that. I've run into Dekes randomly around the world, and there's always that connection.
Yeah, I think that connection's huge.
It is.
As fraternities have changed in public perception and, quite frankly, just changed over the last decades, that stays firm between everything. And it's really the people and the bonds and the connections that make it such a great experience. And I don't think that's going to change anytime soon.
I certainly hope not. I mean, it's the people in our lives that we remember, and it's those great people that make our lives better. And yeah, it's, I think I can name names, but you guys, none of, you wouldn't know them. But yeah, it's those people that just make it so worthwhile.
We the fraternity system gets challenged from many different angles these days for different reasons. Some of them deserve, some not.
Yep.
Do you feel that, from your observation and work with the Kappa Epsilon guys at UW, do you feel the fraternity system's as relevant as it was when you were in college? Less relevant, more relevant? How do you feel the concept of fraternity has what its place is in today's society?
Well, it's interesting because I never thought about the relevance one way or the other when I was going through school, and I don't think about it even today. Like I think about, what we stand for, and I think that's unchanged. Like, scholars, gentlemen, jolly good fellows. Like, I expect that. And you get to, like I said, you get to meet those people, and that never changes. You want to meet great people. You want to add to the environment that you're in. You want to positively add to, your community. And I know that, Delta Phi, where I initiated, we have for certainly as long as I remember, so it's 40 plus years now, been very strong advocates for charities and so on in the community. And I think we often get a bad rap. Having said that, there are some times where we deserved it, bluntly.
Definitely.
But like any large organization, you learn from it, hopefully. I know we have. And then you move on, as long as you don't do it again and again. And I haven't, I see that the fraternity system, and not just Deke, but I think in general, is becoming, it's changing with the times, and it's becoming, it's certainly thoughtful given the constraints we're in today, and that's fine. Does that?
Yeah, and I also wanted to see if you thought that the kids that are just coming up in from high school into college right now, they're different in the sense that, they're still just like we were, but this different in the sense that they grew up on mobile phones.
Oh God!
And so so sometimes,
are you going to get me rolling down this path?
Maybe. Some of the things that I think about when I think about the relevance of the fraternity today is, like, I think a lot of when you join a fraternity or you walk into a fraternity house, you can't get away with just hiding behind your phone. It's a true human connection that I think some of the younger kids, this younger generation, is lacking when they get to college. Yeah,
no, I totally agree with that. I love my daughter to death, but she is behind her phone all the time. And although she's changed a little bit over the last little while. But I see this a lot. I see it a lot at work. And, when I was a kid, I now sound like my father, but still, I walked to school through 4 feet of snow, uphill in both directions, right? No, but like when we got together, like I remember grade 5, we'd go and we'd play road hockey or street hockey in the street out front, in front of the house. Because we didn't, we could sit in front of the TV, but that's about it. Now you're literally in that computer all the time. By the way, the adults are guilty of that too. God, I am. But forcing is the wrong word. The fraternity system encourages human interaction. And turns out actual interaction with human beings matters. And what I've seen is that when people have that actual real world connection, they're happier. they're more engaged. They're smart is the wrong word, but they're more active. And I see that even with the folks that I work with and my staff, like the ones that actively engage with humans are way more relevant. They're way more, they contribute way more. And they seem much happier. So I think, if anything, you're right. Like, I think the fraternity system, because it forces us to come out and actually talk to people, I think is incredibly valuable, because we're in a real danger of like disappearing into, cyberspace. God knows I run half of cyberspace, but
there are statistics bearing that out over the last 3-4 years. That Greeks versus non-Greeks, and so the job satisfaction, life outcomes are better among Greeks than non-Greeks too. So
I would totally believe that. In fact, I mean, even going back to my generation, I'm pretty certain that's true even then.
Yeah.
There may not have been studies then, but I'm pretty certain that's true even then, just because of the connection you make.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's not why I joined a fraternity. I didn't, but turns out that connection and that, having something that you can rely on is really important. Like, I know today, if I reached out to my fraternity brothers, I know like they would be there for me. And, reaching out to somebody that you're chatting with that you've never met, it's not the same. In fact, you may be smacked down. That's the standard approach these days. And so that's much more difficult to do when you're face to face like this.
Mm-hmm.
So I totally believe that. And I think if anything, given the question you asked earlier, and with those statistics, I think it's even more relevant just because it gets humans to be humans rather than, consumers of devices. I'm going to give a little spot of advertising here. All of those apps, for those of you listening out there and your kids, all of those apps that are free are not free. You are the product. You're selling yourself. Don't sell yourself.
It's a great way to look at it. And because every app that's free, they have to be making money somehow.
It's
and
true.
They're making money by you and your data. And
they put a value, by the way, they put a value on you, and they put a value on the amount of time that you engage with their app, and they sell that. So when I'm telling you that you are the product, it's not even a way of looking at it. That literally is the way they think about it.
Yeah, and that makes total sense. And then going back into what you were saying about the importance of in-person connection and kind of getting off those screens and building the real life relationships, that goes into, I'm sure, how you manage at Amazon. When we were talking earlier, you mentioned during COVID, everyone was working from home remote, but now a lot of your team and staff is back in the office.
Yep. Actually, it's been in the news, so there's nothing new about this, but we've asked all of our staff to come back. And, actually, we've required all of our staff to come back, I'll be clear. And I will tell you from personal experience that it makes a huge difference. I remember we were gone through COVID. The first time we were really kind of back together was the summer of 2021 for an annual planning thing. Myself and two of my peers got together after one of the meetings for 20 minutes, and we're talking face to face. And we got more done in that 20 minutes than we could have gotten done in hours over, some video conference. I have another example during that time, a gentleman that worked for me. He owned identity for AWS. He's at another company now. He's the CTO there. Couldn't get something resolved, and they tried for hours. And so they brought everybody together in the office, and they solved the problem in 30 minutes, an hour, excuse me. And so, that's kind of amazing. More than anecdotally, I will also tell you that people are just more productive. I know that when I looked at some of it's not a perfect metric, but number of check-ins for college grads during COVID versus before COVID, there's a very significant drop-off. Now, it's not a hamster mill, so you're not expected to like have 10 check-ins a day or something like that. But it is an indicator, and it's an indicator of engagement. It's an indicator of corporate culture, those kind of things. And I simply use that as an anecdote. It's not yes or no, but there were definite indicators that people were just disengaged. And when you're in together, face to face, you're just more engaged. I see this as well when we do planning sessions. It is way better when you're all in the same room. Well, it's not always perfect, but it works.
It's better for the company, but it's better for the young, especially for young professionals too. They need to be in an office with other people and getting their, building their professional career and brand and so forth too.
No, I 100% agree with you. Yeah. We've seen this, particularly when you're early in your career, it is that face-to-face interaction with your teammates. It's literally standing up, what we call a stand-up, every day where you review, or weekly stand-ups where you review what's going on, and you do it in person. It's different than doing a stand-up, air quotes, via a video screen where you're not actually paying attention. Maybe you've actually turned your video off and you've gone somewhere else. No, seriously, these things happen. But it's not that. It's like that personal interaction is better. We've also seen that the training is just more effective when it's in person. People learn faster. People are more effective. People perform better. And by perform better, the consequence for them is they probably get compensated better. So that in person really makes a huge, huge difference. And you're right. And we've talked about this a lot, kind of in the leadership team with, my peers and my boss, and that we've really seen that impact on kind of what I'll call the younger generation, the COVID generation.
Yeah. And I can totally see why that would make everyone more productive, because if you're fully remote, you have a question, you're a new hire, you're getting trained, you have a question, you've got to write an email, send a Slack message, schedule a meeting, and then wait for that reply. If you're in person, you just walk over to someone's desk and ask them, hey, how do you do this? I can
just turn this way and say, hey, I don't quite understand this. I'll give you an anecdote from when I was writing software. I was trying to work through this problem, and I had worked on this for like 6 or 7 hours, couldn't find the problem. And so I walked down the hall to my boss at the time, a gentleman by the name of Dennis, and I'm like, Dennis, I can't figure this out. Here's it does this, and it does this, and it does this, and I'm stepping here, and then oh, heck, never mind. And the fact there was a human looking at it with me, I had spent 6 or 7 hours trying to solve this problem, and I'm walking, he didn't even have to point it out. As I'm walking through it with him, it's like click, and I had to do that via a conference call or something, I don't know what the outcome would have been. So it's those little serendipitous things are real.
I think we all have similar stories to that, where as soon as you start explaining it to somebody, you go, yeah, oh, I get it now. Yep. So that's really what it takes. Yeah.
That's just an example, or quite literally, it's like, I don't know how to do this, and then they will help you. Here, let me work through it with you, right? Because the email too, it's like, write an email, then they'll answer in an email, they'll tell you what to do, rather than having you work it as they're helping you work through it. Like there's a phase shift difference in the amount of value that brings to the person that's learning and the person that's teaching, frankly.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's plenty of young Dekes out there that work for Amazon. And I'm sure there's plenty that would love to work for Amazon. So what do you say to them? Is it a good place to work? Is it fun, challenging, thrilling?
Well, I've been there 25 years, so obviously I love working there. The reason, and I get asked this question a lot, which is like, why do you come to work every day? And the reason I come to work is the people I get to work with. And the people I get to work with, whether it's my peers, whether it's the software engineers we hire, like they're literally some of the best people in the world. And it is a place where you're challenged every day. It is not for the faint of heart. If you want to, go to the office and put your feet up, don't come to Amazon, because you will not enjoy it. If you want to come to the office and be challenged every day, because the lights are on and your peers' lights are on, that's a great place to be. But you also get to impact the world. I've been involved in at least, I counted the other day, 5 or 6 different projects where I've been a significant contributor, where the world is a different place when we're done. And most people never get to do that once. And that's kind of cool. And by the way, those things are still happening today. So, we are changing the world. Our peers are changing the world. I happen to think Amazon's better. But absolutely. In fact, I know that there are Dekes that work for us. In fact, one of my, I think he was 1 year before me, his son came and worked somewhere deep in my team. And then he came down, visited his son, went for lunch. I actually didn't pay attention because that's not that would be conflict. But I think he was pretty happy. I think he came back and he works in another part of Amazon now. So absolutely, it is a good place to work. If you want to punch a clock, don't work there. If you want to be excited and challenged every day, yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, to be clear, but it's pretty damn good.
And I'm sure that attracting and retaining such a great team requires a great culture too. Could you go into a little bit about what that culture looks like day to day and what it's like to be on a team expectation wise, and how you keep retaining those people and getting such impactful results from those teams?
Mm-hmm. And then I'll give you some other examples. This is an interesting one, and it drives some people crazy, but it works. If the ideal number of people to deliver this task is 12, I'm going to give you 10. And the reason I'm going to give you 10 is that scarcity drives innovation. And it's amazing what you can do when you use that. That's one. The other thing is, like, when you're a relatively junior, new person, you get to deliver stuff that customers use. In many companies, when you're junior, you don't actually get to influence much. But when you're new, like, you write software, it might be used by millions of people, or it might be used by, not just us, but Netflix runs on AWS. Maybe it's something that Netflix uses to run their website, which is streaming to millions of people. Great company, by the way. And so it is a place that you can learn. It is a place that if you are willing to put in the work and put in the effort, you will be very successful. And frankly, you'll be well rewarded. If we put it this way, if you're a missionary, it's a great place to be. If you're a mercenary, not so much. Because missionaries, they are on a mission. They are there because of an inner need to do something. Mercenaries are there for the money. So from that perspective, I think it's a great place. I was going to tell a story, and I've gone blank. That's fine.
Yeah. So having such great people and people taking ownership of their products like it's their own company,
yeah,
I'm sure requires a lot of entrepreneurship principles. What kind of lessons and things of entrepreneurship have you used, and examples of that sort of thing?
Yeah, there are some good lessons. This is something I talk to people about all the time, and if you don't mind, I'm going to do a little bit of my lecturing. One is, in many companies and many people play not to lose, and that means that it's like, oh, what can I do that won't get me in trouble? What can I do in order to minimize the opportunity for this to go wrong? I can see you're smirking.
I'm guessing you're not a fan of that attitude.
No, because yes, you need a great defense, but the defense doesn't win the game. The offense wins the game. And I think it was Jeff that said this many years ago, but I'll use the analogy of baseball. So in baseball, if you get up there and the bases are loaded and you're swinging for the fences and you hit a home run, you can bat in 4 runs. And that's awesome. But in business, If you get up there and you swing for the fences and you miss, okay, you can get up there and swing again. But if you get up there and swing for the fences and you hit a home run, you could bat 10,000 or 1,000,000. Like when we did the Kindle, what we actually looked at was how do we reduce the friction in the supply chain of literature? And turns out it's been pretty successful. There was this other thing that we did. You may or may not have heard of it, called a Fire Phone. Not so much. We were too late into a market. By the way, is a great V1 product. Unfortunately, the market was on V4. It is what it is, right? But you learn from it. And I have other examples of that. So, you know what? When you're out there, play to win. Don't be afraid to lose. And if a company, if you work for a company where if you are not successful, they're going to fire you, go work for somebody else. Because what you want is a company that rewards failure, assuming that you're learning from it. If you do the same, doing the same thing 3 times in a row is the definition of insanity. But if you learn from it, eventually you'll be successful. And we have examples. I gave you one over lunch. So I love that. I'll give you one more, and I'd like you to do some math with me. There are 168 hours in a week, so 7 times 24. Mm. And let's make some assumptions. Let's assume that you sleep 8 hours a night. Okay, so and then 7 times 8 is 56. 168 minus 56 leaves 112. Then let's make some other assumptions. Let's make an assumption that you work 8 hours a day. Actually, let's make an assumption you work 9 hours a day. Most people work 9 hours a day. Then also let's make an assumption that you're spending 30 minutes getting to and from work. So 10 hours a day, 5 days a week. And if you're in the software industry or anywhere where it's a high performance environment, you're probably going to do some work from home. 4 to 5 hours when your kids have gone to bed, or, when you're in the shower, or whatever you're doing, like you're thinking about work. And just to make the math easy, let's assume it's 6 hours, right? You're doing email a week. So 50 hours at work or getting to and from work, plus 6 hours of random stuff. So from the time you graduate college until the time that you retire, you are spending 50% of your adult waking life working. It's probably more than you spend with your kids. It's more than you spend with your wife. So people talk sometimes about work-life balance, which, by the way, is a real thing. But you have to remember that work is part of life. And so whatever you do, love what you do. Like, truly enjoy it for several reasons. 1, you'll be happier. 2, you'll be better at it. And if you're better at it, you'll probably be more successful. And if you don't like what you're doing, by the way, my human resources department hates it when I give this talk. I'm like, if you're not good at it, if you'd rather be doing something else because it's great, get up right now, quit, go do what you love doing. Let me provide you with an example. My sister has a degree in business, and she's an accomplished architect. Her husband is an accomplished architect. 25 years ago, they'd had enough. And today, they are potters. That's what they do. They make pottery. They make wood-fired pottery. Their stuff is world-class. Like, it is museum quality. And, in Alberta, the museum is doing an interview with them. What's interesting here is they're still alive. And I watch them when I go visit, and they are happy. They're not rich by any stretch of the imagination, but they're clearly happy. So those are some of the lessons that I've kind of picked up over time. Is that helpful?
Yeah.
Back to the first point you made a second ago was the about swinging hard and so forth.
Yeah.
There was a guy, I just read a book about a guy who's he's a political PR man, and not a politician.
Yep.
But he's had a lot of life's problems, had to recover from alcoholism and so forth.
Yep.
And the title of his book I loved, and the title of the book was advice that his father gave him when he was a little kid in Little League.
Yep.
Swing hard in case you hit it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. That's the same thing.
Yeah.
Because if you hit it, especially like in life, holy mother of God.
Yeah.
That is so awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. And it assumes you're not going to hit it every time. But
of course not.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, you look at some of the most successful people in the world, and they have missed a lot. But when they hit it, it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you always play it safe and never take that risk, you're never going to reap the reward of doing anything above average. And if you're just,
Yeah, there's a great Hunter S. Thompson quote. Are you familiar with this one?
Sure.
Which is like, I will get it slightly off, but it's effectively, you can live life safely and die with a well-preserved body, or you can live life to its fullest and skid into the grave sideways, totally used up and totally messed up, and screaming, "Hey!" or "Holy shit, what a ride!" Like that's the one you want.
it's a great message to live by. And
I think Teddy Roosevelt said, "I'd rather wear out than rust out."
I agree. I'll give you one final one, which is, the gods gave Achilles a choice. The choice was, you can live a comfortable, happy life and die a complete unknown, or live life like a shooting star and be remembered for all time. Which one would you choose? I personally would choose number 2. So that's what that's my recommendation to kids. Don't play life like it's a dress rehearsal. It is not a dress rehearsal.
Yeah, that's a great way to live, and that's something I try and embody myself too. After college, I kind of made a decision to take a route that was more risky, start a couple businesses, work with Deke, and really do something I love doing, and that the upside could potentially be way higher than just playing it safe and getting a normal 40-hour week job and playing out there. And it's no regrets.
Yeah.
I hope I'll hit it out of the park.
Yeah. Jeff, our founder, calls it the regret minimization framework. When you're sitting on your porch and you're 80 years old, you're going to regret the things you didn't do, the things you didn't try, not the things you tried and failed. You're going to regret, I wish I would have done X. So do X.
Yeah. So when you do X though, and you do swing and it's a swing and a miss, how do you recover? What's the best way to recover, bounce back, and try again?
There's no perfect answer to that one. But what I do see, this is another thing that I've learned over time. What I do see is people who've like done a swing and a miss, or oops, I didn't quite behave the way I should have yesterday. And then they kind of auger in on that and they won't let it go. I love telling stories. The Lion King. What was the little ape's name that smacked Simba on the head?
I'm not sure.
It doesn't matter. Anyways, at one point, Simba's up looking over he's still very young, looking over the savannah, and he smacks him on the side on the head with his cane. And Simba's like, "What'd you do that for?" And he says, "It doesn't matter. It's in the past." And so with these, when you swing and a miss, like learn from it, but don't auger in on it and move on.
Yeah. I guess, dwelling on the past isn't going to get
Don't
you
dwell on
in
the past.
future.
Yep. Now, if you need to apologize, go apologize and then move on.
Yeah, I got to keep this relationship strong.
Totally.
So you mentioned one of Jeff's mindsets. I'm sure you've worked with him over the years, or have you worked closely with him on any projects? And what's it like working with a guy like that who's made such an impact around the world and, founded Amazon?
It is challenging. He's great to work with. The man is amazing. And he is, when you talk customer obsession, you think you're customer obsessed. You're not customer obsessed until you met Jeff. Like, the man is customer obsessed, and that's awesome. And I remember in the early days of Amazon, I haven't interacted with Jeff much recently, but like when you walked out of a room, you just wanted to be better. Like a great leader inspires you, and you just want to be better. I worked for a lady by the name of Kim Rackmiller. Love her. She's awesome. And it's interesting because I'm trying to remember the exact context, but somebody's said to me, it's like, it won't be easy working for her, but she will make you a better man. And those are the kind of leaders that you want to work for. Jeff is like that. Andy's like that. Andy's our current CEO. And he's, I'll leave it at that. I have some anecdotes, but I'll leave those for internal. He's a great person, good human.
So when you started working at Amazon, you guys were a mainly online bookseller. How did that transition into Amazon Web Services take place? And what was the reason for kind of getting into that, given it's a completely different business model?
Yeah, there was, I think it was Barron's who had this cover. Oh, I think Barron's did it twice. They did the first time, I think it was 1999. They called it Amazon.bomb. We have that framed on one of our floors. There's another one where I think they said, Jeff wants to sell you computers. Wall Street wishes he just mined the store. Turns out, I think this turned out pretty well. In the early days, there were several factors that went into this. One is, every Christmas, like we were on the edge of falling over. And I mean that in a good way. Like we were just growing like crazy. And Christmas is, peak day is, 3-ish times larger than any other day of the year. And you have to build for peak day. And every year we'd be like, all right, Christmas is over. Let's order all the hardware for next year. And, we start building it. And we had to find a better way to scale that. Now, initially, when we launched Amazon Web Services, it was to sell the APIs, the application programming interfaces for the retail website, where like others can build on us. But that didn't work out so well. But as we're kind of thinking through what we need to build in order for us to scale, what we've always thought is if we have to build it for us, we should build it so we can sell it. One of the things that many people don't realize is that even back then when we were a retailer, I put in air quotes, Amazon was never a retailer. Amazon was a tech company that happened to sell stuff. And when you think that way, you think differently. And when, AWS came around, if we could scale compute, if we could scale our storage, and if we could use the cycles that aren't used during, other parts of the year, or we could sell them, that's how we thought about it. In most companies, when you have on-premises hardware, I don't remember the exact numbers, but on-premises hardware, if you use CPU as CPU is how much the core processing unit is used. It's about 5 to 10% busy would be busy for most stuff that's on-prem. But if you think about it in the cloud, and if you look at the sales cycle that goes like this, every one of those dips, there's this, here's what we could be using, but here's what we're using. That's an opportunity. And so we think about that opportunity, and we decided to see if we can't put compute together so that we can grow faster and storage. So the first thing that we launched was S3, Simple Storage Service Object Store. It is, one way to think about it is the world's biggest disk drive, although that would be underselling it by huge orders of magnitude. And then EC2 was a way to get, instant compute. So credit card, I can get storage, I can get compute, now I can build everything else. And I think I was actually sitting, we at the time, our headquarters was in a place called Pacific Medical Center. And I remember them walking up to talk to Jeff with this idea. And a very good friend of mine, who's unfortunately now passed away, he had ALS, but he wrote what we call a working backwards document for the launch of S3. He wrote the S3 PRFAQ. And it's effectively what we do is we're like, hey, here's a customer problem. If we solve this customer problem, write the press release, not the tech, the press release for what we're going to ship, and what are the FAQs, the frequently asked questions that go with it. And he wrote that for S3, and S3 is one of the big services that Amazon has. So that we kind of transitioned, because honestly, like the folks that worked in tech at Amazon, even before AWS, were pretty awesome. In fact, they were more than pretty awesome. Does that answer your question?
No, that does. And when you first started there and when you saw that proposal come through, did you ever anticipate it would get to the level that we're at today?
No. Although I think, I mean, this is clear to everybody. Like once we launched, like we had to run like crazy to keep up because growth was so strong.
It was an instant hit.
Yeah. Well, not billions, but yeah, it was very successful. And, we had some good people leading it. Andy, who runs Amazon today, has been with it, was with it, from its inception. And, good businessman, actually great businessman, and just a great human. And we helped to drive that through.
So right now, AI is all the craze.
It is.
Every company's trying to take advantage of it. How at Amazon are you guys utilizing it? And what's your opinion on AI and its current place in the market?
Certainly. It's interesting. There are these, the next big thing, blockchain. You're smirking a little. I'm smirking. But AI is interesting. By the way, it's not actually artificial intelligence, right? It is incredibly large language models, but they are able to, bring the next prompt out. I'm way oversimplifying stuff, but there's something here. Like there actually is real stuff that we can do with this, and I think it is going to change the way we work. It's going to make software engineering more efficient. We have existence proofs at Amazon where we have, saved thousands of person years of effort in, moving from one version of software to another version. That is the trivial use case. But particularly agentic AI, where you can think of them as pieces of software that are agents that can learn and I won't call it reason, but let's call it reason, and take actions, I think are going to be game-changing over the next few years. I think the world will be very different 5 years from now from where it is today. Will it solve world hunger? Probably not. But it is probably as big a change as the advent of the computer.
Well, okay, outside of what your business does, what industries or facets of life do you see being, and I agree, we don't know what it's going to look like 5 years, but what areas of impact will it have that you can see? Medicine, defense?
Well, medicine, absolutely. It's interesting because, medicine up to this point has been, can the doctor take all this data and kind of figure out what the right answer is? Whereas with Gen AI, just the amount of data it can look at and the ways it can look at it is so, fundamentally different, but just it can look at so much more that I think we're going to find more cases where something's on the edge that it will help us solve. There was a case recently, I don't remember the exact case, but it was like, well, they saw behavior, in this case, they saw behavior in how a cat got sick. And they're like, no, it's probably this thing. But then as you asked, actually the person did go in and asked Gen AI what's going on. And it came out with, well, your cat did this and then they did this. And thus this happens. And then that edge case showed up. And it turns out when they went and tested for it, that actually is what it was. So I think you're going to see, certainly in the fields of medicine, that's going to help. That does not mean it's going to eliminate doctors by any stretch of the imagination. I think there are other areas where it's already having an effect. In effect, like the internet is constantly under attack, and Gen AI is already helping the attackers and the defenders. It's going to get worse. It's going to get much more prevalent, I guess is a better way to put it. And we're going to have to find ways to defend. That's part of my job and part of my team's job. It is going to affect other things where you can remove some things that are done by rote. So I do think it's going to have a huge effect on life in general. At the same time, every time one of these transformative technologies comes around, electricity, it's going to destroy the entire work environment. Nobody's going to be able to work, right? it will just be different. There will be opportunities. Whether we as humans take advantage of them, well, that's a different question. But the opportunities that we have, I think, will simply change and be different. And I think we'll be bigger. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. Yeah. You know, one of Carter's earlier questions was what, like any particular events that you remember in college with the Dekes and so forth. But when I get asked that question, to me, the answer is some of the best times I had with my fraternity brothers was doing nothing. Sitting around, maybe shooting some hoops or sitting out in the backyard or the front porch or something like that.
Yeah.
Did you experience a lot of that too? It's just
I did. I mean, a lot of it was just hanging out at Deke House.
Yeah.
That was nice, hanging out with good people.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, some of the meetings were just kind of fun because afterwards we just hang out.
Yeah.
And, you know, you get to be, you get to enjoy times with your brothers and with good people. We, at Delta Phi, we had a retreat once a year. Those were great. I can't get into the details of that because I don't think we can publish those. But no, those were the fantastic times. When that question was asked, I was like, huh, what's a big event? But no, just being able to like sit with people and have a beer, or go to a restaurant and talk, or just sit at the house and hang out, or go out on the weekend or go water skiing or whatever. That's
how relationships are built. And I do feel like even today, the value of the fraternity is that there's nobody when you're in college and you're in a fraternity, there's nobody in your life that knows you better than your fraternity brothers.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yep. Let me think about that for a second. Yeah, it's interesting. I had a very small field that I was in. There were only 40 of us that were allowed into second year in the engineering field discipline that I went into. And then only 21 of us actually made it through all 4 years. And so we were very close. But the truth is, yeah, my fraternity brothers knew me better.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, it's true.
Yeah.
And also, like back what you said a while ago, is if you start to veer off path a little bit, who better to tell you, hey, look, dude, gently and brotherly way, bring you back to the right direction.
Yeah, that's true. And we did that with some of our brothers even long after we graduated.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And it's like so and so needs some help. Let's go. Let's go help them out. So, and I think more than once we've helped. We in general, the fraternity brothers have helped others out. I see that even today. There is an example where one of the people in my class was working for the federal government. He was aide to the prime minister or something, and he had an opportunity to meet Gerald Ford. He was in the same room, and Gerald Ford somehow found out he was a Deke. Now Gerald Ford is a Deke, and he pulled him aside and made special time, like not a lot of time, but a couple of minutes to just spend time with him. Mm-hmm. And those things are life-changing. So. Now,
I found it encouraging and interesting that you, with your busy life and so forth, and having gone to a college, 1,000 miles away, got involved with the UW guys over in Seattle. So how what motivates you to spend time helping those guys out, which, you really don't have any particular affiliation with that chapter. Didn't. You do now.
I do now, but, I got a lot of personal value out of it. It's affected in many ways the person that I am today, I think in a positive way. And I want, I think other young gentlemen should have the opportunity to do that. So I am happy to help when that is the case. And, by the way, the other folks involved in that, Dan in particular,
sure.
He just dedicated so many years to try and get everything rolling again. And, it just seemed like the right thing to do. It's not like I had this epiphany. It's the right thing to do.
Well, we appreciate it, actually.
So,
yeah. So what advice would you give to young guys that are in college right now, considering if they should join a fraternity or not? And what would you tell them?
Um, I think it is a very personal decision for everyone. And if you're going to join, by the way, I encourage you to join. But if you're going to join with an open mind, and join because you're going to make friends for life. And if that's something that matters to you, then I think a fraternity is a great venue. It's not going to be perfect. It's not always going to be easy, but neither is life and neither are good friendships, right? So I would strongly recommend that, you at least evaluate it. And, if you are at all interested, you should join. And, if you're awesome, you should join Deke. But honestly, it's like you should evaluate it, period, whether it's Deke or not.
I completely agree.
Mm-hmm.
So outside of Amazon, outside of Deke, let's get into a little bit more about you.
Uh-oh.
How do you like to spend your time? What are some hobbies you have? You mentioned when we were talking earlier, you've got a pretty crazy stereo setup at your house.
Yeah, we're not going to get too deep into that. That would take hours. But yeah, I've told you the story of how this happened. I'll tell a quick story. When I was 16, I went into Sears with my father, and they had the stereo system for sale. And I said, "Hey, Dad, I want that." It was like $700 or $800, which 1980, that was a lot of money. And my dad's like, "No. We're gonna go look around." And my dad grew up on a farm. He had a grade 4 education. But we looked around, went into this one store, and the guy. It turns out the guy that talked to us is the owner. 1960s hippie, combat boots, long hair, and he sat me down in front of the system, in front of these speakers that were like those Chinese screens. The ones you get dressed behind. They're kind of bendy, and they're I think they were like an inch and a half deep, in front of this kind of really interesting turntable, and put on this piece of music to play. And I remember this rowboat in a cave, and then a bat comes from behind my head, flies off over my head, flies off into the cave, and then the music starts. And I will never forget that. Now, we didn't buy that because it's way over price range, but I spent the next 40 years, 45 years, I guess. No, 40 years. Going back every once in a while into these stereo stores, but mostly this one, every 5 years or so, and I walk out with a salesman's card with a bunch of prices on it. And then in 2021, I went with a friend. We were doing some other errands and walked in there. I walked out the same thing, and he stops me as we're outside, and he kind of looks at me like this. He's like, "Kurt, what the are you thinking? You can afford it. You should just buy it." One thing led to another, and I now have a pretty decent stereo system. But it is not something I bought on a whim. I've been looking at it for a long, long time. So definitely do that. We have a lot of cats at home, so I spend a lot of time with my cats. I was never a cat person when I was younger, but turns out cats are really smart. I have taken up shooting at the range. I was hunting with my father when I was younger. A friend of mine, the same one that yelled at me about the stereo, called me a couple of years ago, and he said, "Hey, I'm going to Africa is on my bucket list. Would you come with me?" And I'm like, "Dude, I haven't shot a rifle in 30 years. Like, I can't go." And he's like, "I wasn't asking." So I ended up buying a rifle, going to the range. And, I believe Yoda is correct. Do or do not. There is no try. So I practiced, and I can show you a picture. But let's just say there were probably 1,000 rounds of me practicing before we went to Africa. And and now I'm hooked. Not assault rifles. That's uninteresting to me. But, these bolt action, beautiful old style, like wood stock hunting rifles, love those. And so I usually go, every second weekend or so for one of the days. I'll go for a few hours and I'll just do some target shooting. That's fun. I like to ride my bike. Seattle is a great place to ride your bike. So road bike. I also have a mountain bike. So I spend a lot of time doing that and watch movies. The other thing I haven't done in a long time that I'm going to start again is skiing. When I was younger, I ski patrolled, and I didn't suck. But it's been probably 20 years since I've been on skis. It's time for me to get on skis again while I still can, and do some pretty serious downhill skiing. So that's kind of where I am. And then I just love hanging out with good people. So, good wine, good food, good people, good music. Those are good times.
Definitely. Yeah, there's nothing better than that combination there at the end. Yeah. All right. Well, Kurt, thank you so much. It was great learning more about you, your career, your college experience, and just your life as a whole. You're an incredibly interesting guy, and we're happy to have you here.
Like I said, I'm just an over-promoted engineer. If one last piece of advice, like to everybody out there, to all of the Dekes out there, live life to the fullest. Life is not a dress rehearsal. So if I was to provide somebody a piece of advice, that would be it. Because I see so many people that live life kind of half asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do that. Live it wide open. Slide into your grave sideways going, holy shit, what a ride.
Yeah, it's a great way to live. Great piece of advice and great motto. Yeah, thank you guys all for watching. And Kurt, thank you for flying all the way out here to Chicago for this interview.
It's my pleasure. Really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Thank you.